Well, hi, good morning, and it's probably good afternoon for those of you on the East Coast. I'm going to talk about why why it is that it's really African Americans who are going to make Andrew Yang viable going forward in these primaries. And a lot of I used to wonder if that would be true. I mean, I think about that, but what really helped solidify this for me was, and I think perhaps for you as well, is the Iowa caucuses. Because as you know, a lot of apparently like 90% of caucus goers were white, so which is good because it basically gives us all a sense of how the white Democratic electorate will break down. And I think what the Iowa caucus tells us is it shows us how white Democrats will break down in their voting. So in a way, it's not surprising that Biden seems to be doing relatively low in the Iowa caucuses, because white Democrats, really, that's not where his support is. Most of his support is coming from African Americans. So I guess I'm trying to be maybe direct with all of you, is if Andrew Yang is depending mostly on just white Democrats, he's not going to be viable. He's going to need other groups, non-white groups, and in particular African Americans, because not only are African Americans the most loyal and consistent of the Democratic Party, but it even goes a bit further than that. In terms of the amount of votes that they represent, or we represent within the party. But even if you look at the Super Tuesday states, when you start looking at the Super Tuesday states, you're going to see that that's where a lot of African American votes are. So it's going to be very critical, going into not just South Carolina, but pretty much any southern state. It's going to be important to have the African American vote. Just so you want to get a sense of, I guess, how things are looking, like in the broader picture, I would suggest when the final results from Iowa come in, so add up the Sanders support and the Warren support together, and that'll give you the progressives, and then add up the Amy Klobuchar and the Pete Buttigieg, and you kind of have the moderates. And so again, it'll be up to us to really think and work further within Yang Gang to really outreach to the African American vote. And the thing is, we do know that there is already significant, at least awareness among African Americans about Andrew Yang. We happen to know I happen to notice myself that more African Americans proportionally really know who Andrew Yang is today, like at this point, than actually kind of knew Bernie, sort of 4 years ago. So he actually has a lot of outreach, and then we have a lot of at least good anecdotal evidence from places such as theroot.com that kind of show that not only do African Americans know who we are, do we know who he is, but we actually kind of what the appeal of him is. That we see that he's genuinely he's smart, he's sincere in what he's doing, and he's actually kind of funny. And he's actually received endorsements from people that at least causes attention to be brought to him. People like Donald Glover and David Chappelle. And if anyone who knows those two in particular, those two are some very smart brothers. So the fact that you have those two incredibly smart people that like Andrew Yang is actually contributing to some of his success. And I also can say too that even when it comes to African Americans who support Biden, I actually know some of people who fit that category. Tend to be African American female, late 50s and above. At least in my experience, they know who Andrew Yang is as well. they know who Andrew is, and they actually do appreciate these same qualities, that his intelligence, his sincerity, his humor. And so I guess our goal is that African Americans do know about Andrew Yang. What's sort of waiting is almost like giving us giving an appeal, if not for him to be president, at least basically as a reinforcement that his voice and what he's talking about needs to be given more attention and is worthwhile, and we should give him a chance. So what's the nice thing about Andrew Yang is his message, economic message, appeals to all kinds of people, all kinds of different political backgrounds, etc. But given the way this race is unfolding, it's really going to be African Americans and other groups such as Asian Americans and Latino Americans that actually offer one of the best hopes for him becoming viable, among which the various people, the white voters who are supporting him, including the white voters who are not just Democrats, people who are independents and who are beyond that, who are like Republicans coming over.